You think your soulmate doesn't love you. But you're about to discover the truth. Don't scroll, listen to this. This message is for you, and your heart needs this right now, because if you've been lying awake at night wondering why they feel distant, why the energy shifted, why the connection suddenly felt quiet, that confusion didn't happen by accident, it happened because something hidden is moving beneath the surface. And listen to this, what you see is not the full story. What you feel is closer to the truth, and your heart needs this right now because your soulmate has not stopped caring. They have been battling emotions they don't know how to express, carrying feelings that feel too heavy to speak out loud. And don't scroll, because the universe didn't bring you here randomly, it brought you here because your spirit is ready to hear what your mind keeps doubting. And listen to this. Silence does not always mean absence of love. Sometimes silence means fear. Sometimes it means confusion. Sometimes it means someone is trying to protect their heart while still holding yours inside theirs. And your heart needs this right now because you've been feeling the signs, even if you tried to ignore them, seeing 11:11 when you think about them, catching 2:22 when you question your future, noticing 3:33 when your emotions rise unexpectedly. And don't scroll, because these numbers are not coincidences, they are spiritual reminders that alignment is happening even when it feels slow. And listen to this, your soulmate has been replaying memories, feeling emotional waves, sensing your energy at random moments, and wondering if they missed their chance, wondering if they waited too long, wondering if you still feel the same. And your heart needs this right now because the universe often creates distance before revelation. It creates space so both souls can grow into emotional maturity. And don't scroll, because you've been growing too, becoming stronger, more self-aware, less willing to settle for half-love, less dependent on validation. And that growth changed the dynamic, it raised your frequency. And listen to this. When one soul rises, the other feels the shift even if they don't understand it consciously. And your soulmate felt that shift, it unsettled them, it woke something up inside them, it made them realize they could lose you if they stayed silent. And your heart needs this right now because right now they are emotionally restless, torn between fear and truth, wanting to reach out but overthinking, wanting to open their heart but afraid of vulnerability. And don't scroll, because this internal conflict is the sign that change is approaching, not distance, not ending, but transformation. And listen to this. The universe doesn't stir hearts without purpose, it stirs hearts to prepare for movement. And your heart needs this right now because you are standing at the edge of emotional revelation. Even if it hasn't happened yet physically, energetically it has already begun. And don't scroll, because you may start noticing small shifts, different tone in messages, subtle attempts at connection, unexpected signs of attention. And listen to this, those are not accidents, they are steps. And your heart needs this right now because the reason you felt unloved wasn't because love disappeared. It was because communication got blocked by fear, ego, timing, and unhealed wounds. And don't scroll, because the universe is now clearing those blocks slowly, gently, intentionally. And listen to this, divine timing is not about waiting, it's about preparation. And preparation has been happening on both sides, shaping you into stronger versions of yourselves. And your heart needs this right now because soon you will be faced with a moment of clarity, a conversation, a sign, or an emotional shift that forces truth into the open. And don't scroll, because that moment will test your heart, not to hurt you, but to see if you can receive love without doubting it, without sabotaging it, without running from it. And listen to this, your soulmate's feelings are deeper than they show, heavier than they admit, stronger than they expected. And your heart needs this right now because the universe is asking you to stop assuming rejection and start trusting alignment, and don't scroll, because if this message is resonating, it's not random, it's confirmation, and listen to this, your connection is not over, it is transforming, and transformation always feels uncomfortable before it feels beautiful, and your heart needs this right now because part 1 ends here for a reason. This is the awakening stage, the moment where doubt begins to crack and truth begins to leak through. And what comes next will reveal what your soulmate is about to do, what sign is coming, and how this emotional shift will change the entire direction of your connection. So don't look away, stay present, stay open, stay aligned, because destiny is already moving. Stay right here with me, because this next phase carries the energy of emotional unveiling, the part of the journey where hidden truth starts pressing its way to the surface, and if you've felt a strange mix of calm and anticipation lately, like something important is about to happen but you can't explain why, that's not imagination, it's alignment activating, and listen to this. Your soulmate is standing in an emotional crossroads right now, no longer comfortable pretending they don't care, no longer able to ignore what their heart keeps whispering in quiet moments, and this internal tension is creating movement, not chaos, but purposeful change, and your heart needs this right now because what they've been feeling isn't fading, it's intensifying, becoming clearer, stronger, harder to suppress, and when emotions reach that point, expression becomes inevitable, not forced, but natural, and don't scroll. Because the universe is not playing games with your heart, it is guiding both of you through preparation, not punishment, and preparation often feels like waiting, reflection, or emotional discomfort, but it always leads to clarity, and listen to this, your soulmate has been revisiting old memories, replaying conversations, noticing details they once overlooked, realizing that what they felt with you wasn't ordinary attraction, it was recognition. The kind that doesn't disappear just because time passes, and your heart needs this right now because recognition changes perspective, it turns confusion into understanding, it turns silence into intention, and it turns hesitation into courage, and courage is building inside them now, slowly, quietly, but steadily, and don't scroll, because you may soon notice signs of this courage showing up in subtle ways, increased curiosity about your life, emotional openness, small gestures that carry deeper meaning, and listen to this. Those small actions are not random, they are steps toward honesty, and your heart needs this right now because you've been preparing too, even if you didn't realize it, learning how to trust yourself more, how to protect your energy, how to stop settling for emotional breadcrumbs, and that growth raised your standards, not in a harsh way, but in a healthy way, and listen to this, when you raise your emotional frequency, you change the entire dynamic of the connection, and your soulmate felt that shift, it woke them up, it made them realize they could lose something real if they stayed silent, and your heart needs this right now because right now they are weighing risk versus regret, vulnerability versus safety, expression versus avoidance, and the scale is tipping toward truth, not because they are being pushed, but because their heart is tired of hiding, and don't scroll, because this is the moment where energy starts turning into action, where intention starts forming behavior, and listen to this. The universe works in stages, first awareness, then emotional readiness, then opportunity, and you are moving from readiness into opportunity, and your heart needs this right now because opportunity doesn't always arrive with fireworks, sometimes it arrives quietly, through a message, a chance encounter, a conversation that feels different from the rest, and don't scroll, because when that moment arrives, your response will matter, not from fear, not from old wounds, but from the growth you've developed. And listen to this, your reaction will shape the emotional tone of what comes next, and your heart needs this right now because you are being asked to stay open without losing your balance, compassionate without overgiving, present without attachment, and this balance is powerful, because it creates emotional safety, and emotional safety is what allows honesty to land gently instead of causing more pain, and your soulmate needs that safety right now, even if they don't say it out loud. And don't scroll, because they are afraid too, afraid of rejection, afraid of miscommunication, afraid of reopening wounds, but fear does not stop destiny, it only delays expression. And listen to this, destiny has its own timing, and that timing is moving closer now, and your heart needs this right now because you may start feeling emotional waves, sudden thoughts about them, dreams that feel symbolic, moments where your intuition gets louder, and these are not distractions. They are signals that the energetic bridge between you is becoming active. Again, and don't scroll, because when energetic bridges activate, physical movement usually follows, and listen to this, movement does not always mean instant reunion, sometimes it means honest conversation, emotional closure, or clarity that sets both souls free from confusion, and your heart needs this right now because clarity is coming, one way or another, and clarity is a gift, even when it feels scary. Because it replaces uncertainty with truth, and truth sets hearts free. And don't scroll, because the universe is preparing you to receive this truth without breaking, without collapsing, without repeating old patterns. And listen to this, you are stronger now than you were before, more emotionally aware, more grounded, more capable of handling vulnerability, and your soulmate senses that strength. It makes them feel safer to open up, and your heart needs this right now because the next phase involves decision. Not just feeling, but choice, the choice to step forward. Emotionally, the choice to communicate honestly, the choice to let go of fear, and don't scroll, because that choice is forming right now, behind the scenes, in quiet moments, in late-night thoughts, in emotional reflection. And listen to this, when that choice becomes action, everything shifts, the energy between you changes, the direction of the connection changes, the emotional timeline changes. And your heart needs this right now because part 2 ends here for a reason. This is the buildup stage, the moment before visible movement begins, and what comes next will reveal how the universe opens the door, what sign appears, and how your soulmate finally shows what they've been holding inside. So stay present, stay grounded, stay open, because the story is not over, it is just entering its most important chapter. Stay anchored in this unfolding moment, because what comes next carries the weight of emotional truth finally demanding expression, and if you've noticed your thoughts drifting toward this person without effort, that's not nostalgia. It's resonance strengthening, the energetic pull that appears when unfinished emotional chapters are ready to move forward, and right now your soulmate is feeling that same pull, not as fantasy, but as awareness, realizing that what they tried to bury emotionally has only grown louder with time, and this awareness is reshaping their internal world, causing reflection, self-questioning, and deeper honesty with themselves. And honesty changes everything, because once someone admits what they feel internally, external behavior begins shifting naturally, not through pressure, but through alignment, and alignment is building quietly, step by step, through late-night thoughts, through moments of silence that carry meaning, through sudden realizations about what truly matters. And while this internal shift unfolds on their side, you are also experiencing transformation, becoming more emotionally grounded, less reactive, more conscious of your needs, your boundaries, your worth, and this evolution is important, because it prepares you to receive truth without panic, without emotional collapse, without repeating old patterns, and this readiness didn't happen overnight. It formed through experiences that taught you patience, resilience, and self-awareness, and now those lessons are becoming useful, because this stage requires emotional maturity, not fantasy, not attachment, but clarity, and clarity brings steadiness, and steadiness creates space for meaningful communication, and communication is the doorway opening soon, not rushed, not forced, but emerging naturally as emotional pressure builds, and your soulmate is beginning to feel that pressure, not as anxiety, but as the realization that silence no longer aligns with growth. That avoidance no longer protects their heart, that emotional honesty is becoming necessary, and necessity creates courage, and courage reshapes direction, and direction determines outcome, and while this is happening, you may notice subtle changes in your own emotional state, feeling calmer yet more aware, less uncertain yet more sensitive to intuition, and this sensitivity is not weakness, it's heightened perception, allowing you to sense emotional shifts before they become visible, and heightened perception is a sign of spiritual awakening, the process of becoming more aware of energetic connections and emotional patterns, and this awakening is happening on both sides, even if it looks different externally, and awakening always precedes transformation, because you cannot change what you are not conscious of, and now consciousness is expanding, creating opportunity for growth, healing, and deeper connection, and you may notice symbolic signs around you reflecting this expansion, repeating number patterns appearing during reflective moments, meaningful coincidences, unexpected emotional insights. These are not distractions, they are indicators that emotional timelines are converging again, and convergence creates momentum, and momentum brings movement, and movement leads to expression, and expression changes everything, and this stage is about preparing for that expression, not by forcing conversations, but by aligning your inner world with clarity and calm. Because calm energy allows truth to arrive without chaos, and chaos only creates misunderstanding, while clarity creates understanding, and understanding heals emotional distance, and emotional distance is what created confusion before, and now that confusion is dissolving, slowly but steadily, through awareness and reflection, and your soulmate is feeling this shift, sensing that something inside them is changing, becoming more honest, more open, more willing to take emotional risk, and risk is uncomfortable, but it's necessary for growth, because staying safe emotionally often means staying stuck, and growth requires movement beyond comfort zones, and that movement is beginning now, not dramatically, but intentionally, and intention carries power, because it shapes behavior, and behavior shapes reality, and this is where destiny responds, not to words alone, but to emotional readiness. And readiness is forming on both sides, creating the conditions for a new chapter to begin, and this chapter will not be a repetition of the old story, because both of you have changed, evolved, matured, and those changes influence how connection unfolds, and this evolution is what allows something healthier to form, something grounded in mutual respect, emotional awareness, and honest communication. And as this phase continues, you may feel moments of emotional release, sudden clarity, or a quiet sense of peace replacing uncertainty, and these experiences are signs that resistance is dissolving, making space for truth to rise, and truth always brings movement, because it demands response, and response creates action, and action reshapes timelines, and this reshaping is what the universe has been guiding both of you toward all along, not to create confusion, but to bring growth, awareness, and emotional resolution, and resolution does not always mean the same outcome for every connection. Sometimes it means reconnection, sometimes healing, sometimes closure, but it always means clarity, and clarity is what you've been seeking, even when you didn't realize it, and now clarity is approaching, step by step, through alignment, awareness, and emotional readiness, and the next phase will reveal how this internal transformation becomes visible, how truth finds its voice, how silence finally gives way to expression, and that moment is closer than it appears. Because emotional shifts always show up externally once they reach critical mass, and that mass is building now. Quietly, steadily, inevitably, preparing both hearts for the moment when everything changes. Remain present with this unfolding chapter, because what's happening now carries the energy of emotional momentum finally finding direction, the moment when inner realizations begin guiding outward movement, and if you've felt a strange sense of readiness lately, like your heart is steady but alert, that's not coincidence, it's preparation settling into place, and right now your soulmate is experiencing a similar shift, moving from confusion into clarity, from emotional hesitation into quiet determination, realizing that avoiding truth only prolongs discomfort, while honesty opens the door to relief, and this realization is changing how they see the connection, no longer as something uncertain or distant, but as something meaningful that deserves attention, and that shift is powerful, because perception shapes intention, and intention shapes action, and action transforms reality. And while this internal movement is happening on their side, you are stepping into deeper emotional awareness, becoming more conscious of your reactions, more selective with your energy, more grounded in your values, and this awareness is essential, because it allows you to respond to what's coming without falling back into old emotional habits, and old habits are what created misunderstandings before, while awareness creates clarity, and clarity builds emotional stability, and emotional stability supports healthy communication, and communication is the bridge that will soon open between you. Not as rushed words, not as impulsive messages, but as sincere expression rooted in reflection, and reflection has been happening quietly on both sides, even during silence, even during distance, because distance often forces people to confront what they truly feel, and your soulmate has been confronting that truth, questioning what they lost, what they avoided, what they still want. And this questioning is leading them toward emotional accountability, the willingness to take responsibility for how they show up, and accountability changes everything, because it transforms passive emotion into active choice, and choice is where destiny responds, and while this unfolds, you may notice your own emotional responses shifting, feeling less reactive, more patient, less driven by fear, more guided by intuition, and this shift reflects growth, not detachment. Because growth allows you to remain open without sacrificing your emotional safety, and emotional safety is crucial, because it creates the space where vulnerability can exist without causing harm, and vulnerability is what deepens connection, not surface-level interaction, not casual attention, but emotional presence, and this presence is what both of you are learning to cultivate now, and this learning process isn't dramatic, it's subtle, showing up in small moments of awareness, brief reflections, quiet realizations. And those moments accumulate, building emotional readiness, and readiness is what allows communication to happen naturally instead of feeling forced, and natural communication carries honesty without pressure, and honesty heals emotional distance, and emotional distance is what caused doubt before, and now that doubt is dissolving through awareness and reflection, and your soulmate is beginning to feel that dissolution, sensing that holding back no longer aligns with their emotional growth, and this awareness is creating courage, not the loud kind, but the steady kind that pushes someone to step forward even when uncertainty exists. And stepping forward doesn't always mean grand confession, sometimes it means consistent presence, thoughtful outreach, genuine curiosity about your world, and those actions speak volumes, because they reflect emotional investment, and investment builds trust, and trust strengthens emotional bonds, and emotional bonds create deeper connection, and this is the foundation forming now, quietly, intentionally, without rushing. And as this foundation strengthens, you may experience moments of emotional clarity, sudden understanding, or inner calm replacing heaviness, and these experiences are signs that alignment is settling into place, creating the conditions for the next phase to unfold smoothly, and smooth unfolding doesn't mean absence of emotion, it means balanced expression, where both hearts feel safe enough to speak honestly. And safety is created through mutual respect, emotional awareness, and patience is especially important now, because rushing this process could disrupt the delicate balance forming, while allowing it to unfold naturally supports sustainable connection, and sustainability is what this connection needs most, not temporary excitement, not dramatic intensity, but steady growth, and steady growth is happening now, behind the scenes, through inner shifts and emotional maturation. And this maturation is preparing both of you to meet each other differently than before, not from insecurity, not from fear, but from awareness and self-respect, and self-respect changes how love is experienced, because it removes desperation and replaces it with choice, and choice allows connection to be intentional rather than accidental, and intentional connection is powerful, because it's built consciously instead of emotionally reacting to circumstances, and this conscious building is what the universe is guiding both of you toward, not to recreate the past, but to create something healthier, something clearer, something rooted in mutual understanding, and as this phase continues, the emotional atmosphere between you will keep shifting, becoming more open, more grounded, more aligned with truth, and that shift will soon create a visible opening, a moment where communication feels natural, where honesty feels safe, where connection can move forward without carrying the weight of unspoken tension, and that moment is approaching. Not because time passed, but because readiness has matured, and maturity always attracts opportunity, and opportunity is what comes next, the chance to express what's been held inside, to clear emotional fog, to step into a new dynamic, and how you hold yourself during this phase, with patience, compassion, and emotional balance, will influence how that opportunity unfolds. Because destiny responds to awareness, not impatience, and right now awareness is rising on both sides, preparing the path for the next shift to occur. Stay grounded as this next phase begins to unfold, because what's happening now carries the energy of emotional restructuring, the process where old patterns dissolve and new dynamics begin forming, and if you felt a shift inside you, like your heart is becoming more selective, more aware, more protective of peace, that's not distance, it's growth shaping your emotional boundaries. And right now your soulmate is experiencing a similar internal shift, recognizing that the way things were handled before no longer feels aligned with who they're becoming, realizing that emotional avoidance created more pain than protection, and this realization is reshaping how they view connection, moving them toward deeper responsibility for their emotional choices, and responsibility changes behavior, because once someone takes ownership of their feelings, they stop running from them, and this ownership is becoming more present now, quietly guiding your soulmate toward more intentional interaction, and while this change unfolds on their side, you are stepping into greater emotional discernment, noticing what feels healthy, what feels draining, what aligns with your values, and this discernment is powerful, because it prevents you from repeating old cycles and allows you to engage from clarity instead of habit, and clarity brings stability, and stability creates emotional safety. And emotional safety is what allows connection to grow without fear, and this stage often feels calmer than earlier emotional turbulence, because it's not driven by confusion, it's guided by understanding, and understanding creates patience, and patience allows natural unfolding, and natural unfolding feels different from waiting or chasing. It feels like trusting timing while staying emotionally present, and that balance is essential, because it keeps the connection healthy instead of reactive. And as this process continues, you may notice subtle changes in your own emotional responses. Feeling less triggered, more reflective, less attached to outcome, more focused on inner alignment, and these changes reflect emotional maturity, not disconnection, because maturity allows you to remain open while protecting your well-being, and well-being creates emotional clarity, and emotional clarity supports conscious decision-making, and conscious decisions shape the direction of relationships, and this is why this phase matters. Because it's where both of you are learning to choose differently than before, choosing awareness over avoidance, intention over impulse, growth over comfort, and these choices are shaping the future of this connection, and while this restructuring unfolds, your soulmate is beginning to feel the difference in the emotional atmosphere between you, sensing that the connection feels steadier, more grounded, less chaotic, and this steadiness creates comfort, and comfort encourages openness. And openness deepens emotional intimacy, and emotional intimacy strengthens bonds, and stronger bonds create partnership, and partnership supports long-term growth, and this chain reaction is forming now, quietly and naturally, without forcing outcomes, and you may feel moments of emotional clarity, sudden insight, or inner peace replacing uncertainty, and these experiences are signs that alignment is strengthening, creating the conditions for honest communication to emerge. And communication doesn't always arrive suddenly, sometimes it builds through small interactions, thoughtful exchanges, gradual openness, and those subtle steps matter, because they create trust, and trust allows vulnerability to exist without fear, and vulnerability is what transforms surface-level connection into meaningful bond, and this stage is about preparing for that transformation, not by rushing conversations, but by maintaining emotional awareness, presence, and balance. And balance doesn't mean neutrality, it means holding compassion and boundaries at the same time, and that balance is what prevents emotional burnout, and emotional burnout is what caused distance before, and now that burnout is being replaced by awareness and intentionality, creating space for healthier engagement, and as this phase continues, you may notice your intuition becoming sharper, guiding you toward healthier choices, clearer communication, and stronger self-respect. And these intuitive signals are important, because they help you navigate this reconnection with wisdom rather than reacting to old emotional triggers, and wisdom allows you to see beyond immediate emotion, understanding the bigger picture of growth, healing, and transformation, and this bigger picture is what the universe has been guiding both of you toward, not to create suffering, but to encourage emotional evolution, and this evolution is happening now, quietly, steadily, through inner shifts and intentional choices. And as these shifts align, the next stage will involve visible movement, not just internal change, but external expression, and that expression will feel different from before, because it will come from a place of awareness rather than confusion, and awareness creates clarity, and clarity supports honest connection, and honest connection is what both of you need now, not fantasy, not assumption, but truth, and truth will begin revealing itself soon, through conversation, action, or emotional openness, and that reveal will not feel chaotic, it will feel grounded, purposeful, and aligned with who you've become, because this connection is no longer operating on old emotional patterns, it's evolving into something more conscious, more balanced, more real, and everything you've experienced up to this point has been preparing you for this stage, shaping your emotional resilience, refining your awareness, aligning you with a healthier way of connecting. And now that preparation is becoming visible through calm confidence, emotional clarity, and intentional presence, creating the foundation for whatever comes next, whether that is reconnection, deeper understanding, or healing closure, and whatever form it takes, it will carry purpose, because soulmate connections never exist to remain stagnant, they exist to teach, transform, and awaken hearts, and this stage is where that transformation becomes tangible, shaping the next chapter of your emotional journey. Stay centered as this next layer unfolds, because what's happening now carries the energy of emotional recalibration, the phase where both hearts begin adjusting to a higher standard of connection, and if you've noticed yourself becoming more selective with your time, more intentional with your energy, more aware of what truly nourishes your spirit, that's not coincidence, it's growth refining your emotional compass. And this refinement is influencing the connection in ways you may not immediately see, because your soulmate is sensing the shift, feeling the difference in how the bond feels, recognizing that the dynamic can no longer survive on uncertainty or mixed signals, and this recognition is changing how they approach you internally, creating a deeper desire to show sincerity rather than ambiguity, and sincerity is powerful, because it replaces confusion with clarity and replaces hesitation with purpose, and while this shift is happening on their side, you are also learning how to hold space for connection without abandoning yourself, understanding that love does not require self-sacrifice, but mutual respect, and this understanding is essential, because it allows you to engage from wholeness rather than need, and wholeness creates balance, and balance supports healthy emotional exchange, and this stage often feels quieter than dramatic emotional cycles, because it's not fueled by intensity, it's guided by stability, and stability builds trust, and trust is what allows deeper emotional expression to unfold safely, and as this recalibration continues, you may notice changes in your emotional reactions, becoming less defensive, more open, less reactive, more thoughtful, and these changes reflect emotional intelligence, not distance, because emotional intelligence allows you to communicate with clarity instead of impulse. And clear communication prevents misunderstanding, and misunderstanding is what created emotional gaps before, and now those gaps are beginning to close, not through force, but through awareness and intentional behavior, and your soulmate is also becoming more aware of how their actions impact the connection, realizing that presence matters more than promises, that consistency matters more than intensity, and this awareness is shaping their choices, encouraging them to show up differently, to be more emotionally available, more attentive, more reliable, and these qualities create emotional safety, and emotional safety allows vulnerability to exist without fear, and vulnerability deepens intimacy, and intimacy strengthens bonds, and stronger bonds support partnership, and partnership allows growth together instead of apart, and this chain reaction is forming now, quietly, naturally, without rushing, and you may feel moments of emotional clarity, sudden understanding, or a sense of inner peace replacing uncertainty. And these experiences are signs that alignment is stabilizing, creating a supportive environment for honest interaction, and honesty doesn't always arrive dramatically, sometimes it appears through small moments of truth, thoughtful conversations, subtle gestures of care, and those moments matter, because they build trust over time, and trust creates emotional resilience, and emotional resilience allows connection to withstand challenges instead of collapsing under pressure. And this resilience is what this stage is building, preparing both of you to handle deeper emotional exchange without repeating old patterns. And while this process unfolds, you may notice your intuition guiding you more clearly, nudging you toward healthier boundaries, more authentic expression, and greater self-respect. And these intuitive signals are important, because they help you navigate this connection with wisdom rather than fear, and wisdom allows you to choose growth over comfort, truth over illusion, and alignment over attachment, and these choices shape the future of this bond in a healthier way. And this stage marks the transition from emotional restructuring into emotional strengthening, where the connection begins developing a more solid foundation, not built on fantasy or expectation, but on mutual awareness and intentional effort. And this foundation feels different from before, because it's not driven by longing alone, it's supported by understanding and emotional responsibility. And emotional responsibility changes how love is expressed, because it removes avoidance and replaces it with accountability, and accountability builds trust, and trust deepens connection, and deep connection supports partnership, and partnership creates stability, and stability allows love to grow without fear of collapse. And as this foundation continues strengthening, you may feel more confident in your ability to handle whatever comes next, whether that is reconnection, honest conversation, or emotional closure, because confidence comes from self-trust, and self-trust allows you to remain grounded even when emotions rise, and grounding keeps your energy clear, and clear energy attracts clarity in return, and clarity is what both of you have been seeking, even if it didn't feel that way before. And now clarity is beginning to form through awareness, reflection, and emotional growth. And as this clarity strengthens, the next phase will involve more visible movement, not just internal change, but external expression, and that expression will feel more authentic than anything that came before, because it will be rooted in emotional maturity rather than uncertainty. And maturity allows connection to evolve instead of repeating cycles, and evolution is what soulmate connections are designed to create, not stagnation, not confusion, but growth, healing, and transformation. And this stage is where that transformation becomes more stable, more grounded, more sustainable, shaping the emotional environment for what's coming next, and what's coming next will not feel chaotic or overwhelming. It will feel purposeful, steady, and aligned with who you've become, because this journey has been preparing you for deeper emotional truth, not surface-level connection. And now that preparation is becoming visible through your calm presence, clearer boundaries, and stronger sense of self, creating the space where honesty can finally breathe. And when honesty breathes, connection transforms. And that transformation is already beginning. Remain grounded as this next stage unfolds, because what's happening now carries the energy of emotional convergence, the point where inner readiness begins drawing two hearts closer without force. And if you've sensed a subtle magnetic pull lately, like something unseen is guiding your attention back toward this connection, that's not fantasy, it's alignment strengthening. And right now your soulmate is experiencing a similar pull, not as obsession, but as clarity, realizing that what they felt with you carried depth that ordinary attraction never reached, and this realization is changing how they perceive the bond, shifting it from something uncertain into something meaningful that deserves conscious effort, and conscious effort transforms connection, because it replaces avoidance with presence and replaces guessing with intention. And while this awareness is forming on their side, you are stepping into a stronger emotional posture, one that honors self-respect, discernment, and inner stability. And this posture matters, because it sets the tone for how the connection can evolve, shifting the dynamic from imbalance into mutual contribution, and mutual contribution creates partnership, and partnership supports long-term growth, and this stage often feels quieter than emotional turbulence because it's guided by readiness rather than urgency, and readiness brings patience. And patience creates space for authentic expression, and authentic expression is what both of you are preparing for now, not rushed words, not impulsive action, but sincere communication rooted in awareness, and you may notice subtle signs reflecting this shift, moments of emotional insight, sudden understanding about what truly matters, intuitive nudges encouraging reflection. These are not random. They are signals that your inner world is aligning with external movement, and alignment always precedes visible change. And visible change is approaching, because internal shifts eventually seek expression, and expression reshapes energy into action, and action transforms reality, and this is why this phase matters so deeply, because it's the bridge between emotional preparation and tangible movement. And your soulmate is sensing this bridge forming, feeling that silence no longer fits the growth they've experienced, that emotional honesty is becoming necessary, not optional. And this necessity is building courage inside them, encouraging them to step forward emotionally instead of retreating into comfort zones. And courage doesn't mean fear disappears, it means growth becomes more important than staying safe. And growth is what both of you are being guided toward now, not to repeat old stories, but to evolve beyond them. And while this evolution unfolds, you may feel heightened emotional awareness, not weakness, but sensitivity that allows you to perceive shifts before they appear externally. And this sensitivity is a sign of spiritual maturity, the ability to sense energetic movement rather than relying only on physical proof, and this maturity is helping you remain present instead of reactive, calm instead of anxious, open instead of defensive, and these qualities are shaping the emotional environment around this connection, making it safer for honesty to emerge, and safety is essential, because vulnerability only appears when emotional security exists. And emotional security is built through consistency, respect, and presence, and those qualities are becoming more visible now on both sides, shaping how interactions feel, how conversations unfold, how emotional energy flows, and this shift in atmosphere is important, because it signals that both of you are approaching the connection from a higher level of awareness. And awareness allows communication to happen without unnecessary conflict, and conflict is what created distance before. And now that distance is narrowing through understanding and reflection is guiding your soulmate toward accountability, not blame, but responsibility for how they show up emotionally, and accountability is powerful, because it turns feelings into action, and action builds trust. And trust strengthens emotional bonds, and stronger bonds create stability, and stability allows connection to deepen without fear of collapse, and this foundation is forming now, quietly, intentionally, without forcing outcomes. And as this foundation strengthens, you may notice your own emotional responses becoming more balanced, less reactive, more thoughtful, less driven by fear, more guided by clarity, and these changes reflect growth, not emotional distance, because growth allows you to remain open while protecting your peace, and peace creates emotional clarity, and emotional clarity supports conscious decision-making, and conscious decisions shape the future of this connection. And this stage marks the transition from emotional alignment into emotional participation, where both Sides begin contributing effort rather than waiting passively, and participation creates co-creation, and co-creation allows two people to build something meaningful together instead of reacting to circumstances, and this building process feels different from chasing or waiting. It feels collaborative, purposeful, and aligned with who you've become, and as this unfolds, you may notice your priorities shifting, valuing sincerity over excitement, depth over surface-level interaction, stability over emotional chaos, and these shifts reflect spiritual growth, not emotional withdrawal, because spiritual growth refines what you seek in connection, aligning you with relationships that support your evolution rather than distract from it, and your soulmate is experiencing a similar refinement, becoming more selective with emotional investment, more intentional with communication, more aware of what truly matters. And this shared refinement is creating a new emotional frequency between you. One that feels calmer, steadier, more grounded, and grounded energy allows destiny to unfold without chaos, and chaos never builds lasting connection, but alignment does, and this stage is about anchoring that alignment, allowing it to settle into your emotional foundation, so that when communication opens, when reconnection becomes visible, it happens from a place of stability rather than emotional impulse. And this preparation is not accidental, it's guided by timing, growth, and emotional readiness, shaping both of you for the moment when this connection steps into its next chapter, and that chapter is approaching now, not through force, but through steady, intentional movement guided by awareness, and how you continue holding this energy, with patience, compassion, and emotional balance, will influence how smoothly that next phase unfolds, because destiny responds to presence, not pressure, and right now presence is becoming your greatest strength. Stay present as this stage deepens, because what's unfolding now carries the energy of emotional integration, the moment when lessons learned begin shaping how connection is experienced moving forward, and if you've felt a sense of inner steadiness lately, like you're no longer being pulled in multiple emotional directions, that's not coincidence, it's alignment settling into your awareness. And this alignment is influencing the dynamic between you and your soulmate in subtle but powerful ways. Because your soulmate is sensing the shift, feeling the difference in how the connection resonates, recognizing that the emotional atmosphere has changed, becoming calmer, more grounded, more intentional, and this recognition is encouraging them to approach the bond differently, with greater sincerity and emotional presence, and while this transformation unfolds on their side, you are stepping further into self-awareness, noticing how your reactions have softened, how your boundaries feel clearer, how your emotional responses feel more intentional, and this self-awareness is essential, because it allows you to engage with connection from authenticity rather than habit, and authenticity creates emotional resonance, and emotional resonance deepens bonds, and deeper bonds support meaningful interaction, and this stage often feels quieter than emotional turbulence, because it's guided by understanding rather than urgency, and understanding creates patience, and patience allows natural unfolding, and natural unfolding feels like trusting timing without disengaging emotionally, and that balance is what supports healthy reconnection energy, and as this process continues, you may notice subtle changes in how interactions feel, conversations carrying more depth, moments together feeling more intentional, exchanges reflecting greater honesty. These shifts are signs that emotional maturity is influencing the connection, and maturity allows vulnerability to exist without fear of rejection, and vulnerability strengthens intimacy, and intimacy builds partnership, and partnership supports long-term growth, and this progression reflects evolution rather than chance, and evolution always feels steadier than emotional chaos. more supportive than unpredictability, and more sustainable than intensity alone, and as this integration continues strengthening, you may feel moments of clarity, sudden insight, or emotional release, and these experiences are signs that old resistance is dissolving, creating space for new emotional patterns to form, and these new patterns are healthier, more balanced, more aligned with who you've become, and alignment ensures that the connection you nurture reflects growth rather than repeating past wounds. And this stage marks the transition from emotional preparation into emotional embodiment, where what you've learned about yourself begins guiding your behavior naturally, without forcing effort, and this embodiment creates consistency, and consistency builds trust, and trust strengthens emotional bonds, and emotional bonds support partnership, and partnership allows growth together instead of apart, and while this foundation continues forming, you may notice your intuition becoming clearer, guiding you toward healthier communication, stronger boundaries, and greater emotional clarity, and these intuitive signals are important, because they help you navigate this reconnection with awareness instead of reacting to old triggers, and awareness creates emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence allows connection to deepen without unnecessary conflict, and this stage is not about rushing toward a final outcome, it's about stabilizing the emotional environment that will support whatever unfolds next. And stabilizing requires patience, honesty, and mutual effort, not perfection, but consistency, and consistency is becoming more present now through repeated actions, reliable presence, and emotional availability, and these qualities build a connection that can withstand challenges instead of collapsing under pressure, and while this process unfolds, you may feel a stronger sense of self-trust developing, a deeper belief in your ability to handle emotional truth without losing your balance. And this self-trust is powerful, because it ensures that the connection you nurture reflects your authentic needs rather than old emotional habits, and everything you've experienced up to this point has been preparing you for this stage, shaping your emotional resilience, refining your awareness, aligning you with a healthier way of connecting, and now that preparation is becoming visible through calm confidence, emotional clarity, and intentional presence, creating the foundation for what's coming next. And what's coming next will not feel chaotic or overwhelming, it will feel grounded, purposeful, and aligned with who you've become, because this journey has been guiding you toward deeper emotional truth, not surface-level connection, and now that truth is beginning to take shape through alignment, awareness, and emotional maturity, and as this phase continues unfolding, the next chapter will involve more visible movement, not just internal change, but external expression, and that expression will feel more authentic than anything that came before, because it will be rooted in emotional growth rather than uncertainty, and growth allows connection to evolve instead of repeating cycles, and evolution is what soulmate connections are meant to create, not stagnation, not confusion, but transformation, and this stage is where that transformation becomes more stable, more grounded, more sustainable, shaping the emotional environment for whatever comes next.